What's up, guys? I'm SaltEMike, and this is your Star Citizen Week in Review for November 15th, 2021. 3.15 is live, 3.15.1 is on the PTU, and I think we had probably one of the best ISCs ever in terms of format, and server meshing continues to create more questions than give answers. All this and more on today's Week in Review. And if this is your first week in review, this is where I take all of the official news from Star Citizen each week, put it into one video, and throw my opinions in there as well. Also, I do live stream on twitch.tv/saltemike every day but Monday, so I can get this video out to you guys starting at around 6:30 a.m. Eastern Time. Now, we do have a bit to get through, so let's start out with patch notes. 3.15V went on to the PTU, where they updated the max capacity at locations from 32 SCU to 100. I don't know about you guys, but I still can't store anything at 100 in my main location because I have way too much crap. For bugs, they fixed issues causing corpses, items, and minables to just disappear when they drop. This is not fixed. This is my biggest issue with the game overall, is things are just disappearing, whether it's items, whether it's your corpse when you go try to find it, whether it's another corpse after you've killed it. Everything is continuing to just despawn and disappear. Missions and bunkers shouldn't spawn two at a time anymore. Then this specific patch went live. I talked a lot about my experiences on 3.15 Live and Answer the Call yesterday. It's mostly positive, but man, some of those game-breaking bug issues are just that. It's really game-breaking at the moment. Then we got 3.15.1 on the PTU. This is in preparation for the Intergalactic Aerospace Expo, but it also came with a lot of fixes. We'll start out with some of the additions, though. They added volumetric clouds to planets and probably moons. I actually haven't played the patch yet because I don't know. I just want to have my first experiences when it goes live. It's just I'm enjoying 3.15 and making progress in that, so I want to continue to do that. People were losing their minds about these clouds. Apparently, they're really sick. I'll say it again and again and again. The visuals of this game are great, but you can't really play them. So this community is so interesting. They get so excited over clouds, but not as excited over like actual gameplay. It's very interesting to see. It's like a social experiment. They also added the Redeemer and the Ares variants, which are awesome. Two really, really exciting ships. One, like gunboat mastery, and then the other, the Ares variants, are capital ship busters. So these are really exciting to be added to the game. We're going to need more of these and other variants from other companies for these specific roles, and it's really cool to see. And hopefully this kind of, I don't know, starts to round out the Star Citizen ship lineup in terms of combat, so it'll be really cool. There are some other additions, and the big one is a corpse marker. So it's only 1,500 meters away, which is not good enough. Not good enough. The distances in this game are massive. 1,500 meters. If you were mining out in space, or you were doing some sort of, I don't know, anything where you're not at a quantum marker, it's going to be really hard to find these. Even if you're at a quantum marker, it's going to be really hard to find these. I had a good talk with Luke Presley about this, and he stated the reason why this is the case, the 1,500 meter limit, is because a dead body is not a live active player. Those kind of things get streamed out on the server. So this is like an object container streaming, server-side object container streaming issue. But then he stated the reason, like why party markers aren't streamed out are because live players are active and moving, and servers tracking something like that. He also said that this probably isn't like a perpetual forever limit. It's just the limit more was probably time to get this in and how important it was to have it. They put it in with this limit for the time being, but most likely this will not be the case in the long term. There are a ton of bug fixes. Looking forward to this patch in particular going live this week. I think it's planned for Friday. There was another PTU 4315.1 where they updated all the Hurston guards to the new armors that everyone's obsessed with. There's also more item performance polish. That was actually item dropped performance polish. That was in 315.1, the original patch, but they touched on it even more, where you can only drop a few items on the ground at a time. I mean, it's a good amount. I think it was like 20, and it can only be in like 7-meter area, but it's still it's interesting to see what tanks performance in Star Citizen. Then a little medical UI polish, the corpse marker. If you interact with the body, the marker will disappear now. Then moving on to video updates, we had an ISC, which this is the type of episode I've been looking for in ISC for a long time. They talked about where they came from, what they're doing now, what they plan to do in the future in the near term, and what they plan to do in the future in the distant future. Because of this, I'm really not going to clip a lot of this video out, because I really feel like if you are interested in ship combat, you must watch this in its entirety, whether it's PvE or PvP. So link will be in the description. I will clip out a couple things though. Specifically, the first one is what their goals are.
Meaningful decision making. So it's giving the player options and also giving the players the data to act on. So we give the player the information of the systems that we're building so they can make the choices.
The second part is giving every weapon and every vehicle and every other item a proper purpose in the game.
And then we embrace those limitations that those choices make. So the players have to make choices.
Personally, I love the decision-making part of it. I think purpose to items and components on ships is a big deal as well. The only other clip I will share with you guys are their short-term goals, because long-term goals change way too often. We know this already. And yeah.
G-force exhaustion. In the past, we had a lot of G-forces, and during dogfighting, G-force was a very important part of how you handle your ship. That impact was lost over time, and we're currently working on bringing that back, weapon archetypes and variations. At the moment, there's only 2 archetypes for weapons in the game. One is good against fighters, and the other one is good against large ships. But we would like to expand on these types. We would like to see specialized weaponry against infantry, specialized weaponry to intercept ordnance and incoming missiles. We're also thinking about suppression weapons and an unspecialized weapon types like a jack of all trades, master of none, which you can use for everything, but it might not be the best weapon of choice. Let's talk about shield variances. In 3.14, we had to unify all shield generators of all sizes in order to rebalance them. In 3.15, we started reintroducing differences between those shield generators again.
And this was kind of to bring the shields down more within a window that we were happy with, because before there was a difference of up to 90% between different shields, and we thought that was too much, where the player couldn't really make a difference.
Going forward, we will try to make the shields more diverse again, so that you have a proper decision to make what to take with you, but still it will only be a moderating variable in the PvP outcome, right? We still want the skill in your dogfighting capabilities to be the deciding factor of the outcome of a dogfight.
So right away I was like, hold up, wait a minute, something ain't right. This system seems to be decided completely outside of the game as a whole. So essentially what they're saying is components shouldn't matter as much, it should be player skill. Yes, this was something that was always part of the project from the very, very, very beginning of me following this project. Skill was the player skill in getting your, pip on the marker or whatever is the deciding factor, right? But they're essentially saying the components shouldn't matter as much. But for me personally, I couldn't disagree more. There's an entire game universe being built outside of PvP, but the decision making on how good components should be and what kind of factors they should play are being decided by PvPers. I don't know if I'm in the wrong here. I really want to hear what your comments are about this. But if PvPers deciding components on this level, I think that's kind of game breaking for most players who are going to be playing the game. And yeah, it's really interesting to look at, because ship progression in starting from an Aurora and going up to, like, let's say a Carrack isn't really a thing because we purchase ships, right? That is completely broken in Star Citizen. The thing I was looking forward to was ship components and upgrading our ships and making them better. And if they're not supposed to matter, why would we do that in the first place? So I'm just interested to hear what your comments are about it. I do understand that this is where we need to be. Like, your actual skill in the game needs to be the factor in PvP. But yeah, I mean, they talked about decision making with components. It's a very interesting thing. It's just, I really do hope there's some really good components somewhere down the line, and most PvPers should just be rocking them, right? So I don't know. It's an interesting thing, because PvPers should also be dependent on kind of PvEers or more, I guess, industrial type players to maybe provide them those type of components, right? So it's more symbiotic. So it's an interesting thing to see the decision making by the flight experience team outside of the guise of the entire Star Citizen game, the MMO as a whole. Other than that, I love the plans on diversity for weapons in general, even with components. I'll let them do their thing. I wasn't cool with a lot of the changes that they were planning on making that we already have. And I happen to like those changes, like the capacitor gameplay and things like that. It just does seem to take a little bit away from the progressing and upgrading ships. But allow it to come in game. We'll see what happens with it, and we'll provide our feedback then. But yeah, it's just taking the big macro view at this micro view they're taking. I don't know if that's necessarily a good thing. Moving on to SCL. This was basically an interview with a concept artist, Gavin Rothery. So if you guys want to check that out, link is in the description below. Nothing really to clip out from there. Moving on to other updates, we had the server meshing panel. This Q&A for me was largely technical, but the first answer, and I guess first kind of two answers, are really what I think we needed, and it was the when question. They want their first iteration of the replication layer to be in Q1 or Q2 next year. That's like the March patch or the June patch, depending on how quickly it gets in. This is basically renamed persistence or if you're Chris Roberts, coffee cup tech. So that is a really big deal, and it's not that far away. They also want... I can't keep a straight face. The first iteration of static server meshing by the end of the year. Yeah, we've heard this before.
Won't, I think, get to by the end of next year, but we'll be very close to it, is server meshing. And
so, yeah, little joke there, but they basically go into really fine detail on how they're going to make it, and it's a little too technical for me, basically. So link will be in the description if you really want to read into the tech. The most interesting thing to me, aside from the ridiculous dates, is the fact that you are on a different... If you are on a different shard from me, you can't interact, raid, or destroy my outpost. I have no idea what this game will feel like, look like, be like anymore. I think we all expected something much different, much more different. What are your thoughts on this? You know, the expectation of we're all in one universe, we're all interacting with each other in some way, shape, or form is interesting. Now, the actual, like, raiding my base when I'm offline thing, kind of happy about that, because that is just one of the most cancerous things in games like Rust and stuff like this. I mean, it's part of Rust, right? It is like the nature of Rust to be raided offline or whatever, but I don't know if that's really for a game like Star Citizen. At the same time, the lack of interaction with people who are possibly your friends will be very interesting. It just comes down to, we'll never know until they implement this stuff, right? And it comes down to, are you willing to have the blind faith in this project that it will be good? For the time being, I still do, but I think when these features do start to be added to the game, then I think I can properly make that decision if I do have faith in the project or not. Then we had a sneak peek. They are showing the sneak peek of Pyro Clouds. If we're not going to get static server meshing until the end of the year, and most likely that'll be late, why are we showing this in November 2021? I don't understand, because Pyro's not coming without server meshing. What is going on here? I just don't know why they would tease something like this. Then there's a lore post on CC, which is the background to the company that makes the quirky subscriber flare that we've been getting. There was a new player guide from Star Citizen. There's probably better new player guides on YouTube. They added the A2 to the sale page for the Starlifter, and then there was a medical crew comic contest. First place will be a 400i, second place a Cutlass Red, third place a Reliant Mako, if you guys want to take part in that. And then lastly, CIG is getting a new office in Manchester with 1,000 developers or something. And people thought this was a really big deal. I don't know. It just doesn't seem like much of a surprise to me. The reason the biggest studio is in the UK is because of tax breaks, and they can get the most of their money there. So no real surprise. I think the only thing it really tells you is the status of Squadron 42 and the likelihood of how far off it is. So yeah, with that said, that's really all I got for you guys this week. Make sure you hit the like button, comment, subscribe, all the algorithmic stuff for YouTube. And also, you can hit the join button and support the channel financially if you guys feel like. So, yeah, thank you so much for watching, guys, and I'll see you all next week.